Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you. Get ready, pal.
And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
The foreign national who allegedly bribed Joe and Hunter Biden allegedly has audio recordings of his conversation with them. 17 such recordings. The foreign national possesses 15 audio recordings of phone calls between him and Hunter Biden. The foreign national possesses 2 audio recordings between him and then Vice President Joe Biden. These recordings were allegedly kept as a sort of insurance policy for the foreign national in case that he got into a tight spot. The 1023 also indicates that then Vice President Joe Biden may have been involved in bereavement employing Hunter Biden.
The walls are closing in, John. This could be the end. This is it. We've been hearing that since 2015.
I'm about to start a drinking game.
No kidding.
Gosh.
Yeah, you insert name of elected official here, too, right?
Well, for years we've been hearing that.
Is this the tipping point? I know we've said it over and over.
You think this is a tipping point?
And over and over.
This is a tipping point.
And over and over.
There's the beginning of the end today.
The beginning of the end.
But no, for real, 8 years they were saying that. Remember, they went after Trump in 2016. There was the Russian collusion. There was the Russian hoax. They went after him in 2018. They went after him again in 2020. They went after him again in 2022. Every time there is a national election, they go after Trump, and we hear that over and over and over. Could not this apply to Joe Biden? Stunning news out this morning. Let's get into that here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Coming up 6:35, how progressive politics is hurting Missouri. You know, Kim Gardner and that mess that she created in St. Louis, it's hurting Missouri. News this morning regarding that. Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft, he hangs out with us 8:10 this morning. We're talking about elder abuse. And Hannah, would it be inappropriate? Because there's a campaign going on right now. As a matter of fact, we're playing commercials here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. And it's the Secretary of State, Jay Ashcroft. John, you've heard these commercials talking and highlighting elder abuse, how to spot it, how to report it. Hannah, is it wrong? And I know your rule.
I was going to say,
and
you read my mind.
The rule is,
if you have to ask,
then it's probably not a good idea, but I think it's reasonable.
You ignore the rule.
There's the rule. There's a rule on Highway 63 says I have to drive 70 miles an hour. I don't always follow that rule either, but don't tell anybody.
Sometimes he goes 65.
I do. I drive like an old man.
In your circle.
Is it wrong in my little circle of life? Is it wrong to ask the Secretary of State about elder abuse as it relates to the president? And here, and I'm not trying to be funny, if you look at the definition.
You're not trying to be funny?
Because usually when I try, I fail. When I'm not trying, it seems to be okay. I'm not trying to be funny, but if you look at the tenets of elder abuse, seriously, and you look at what they're doing to Joe Biden, I think it applies. Welcome into the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I am Branden Rathert. Mr. Brian Houseworth is here.
You know, the one thing, and I'll defer to you and the Secretary about the issue of the president, but the one thing in all seriousness that is a problem, my mother and father have received these calls, scammers. Yep. And if you go to a retirement community, Branden, you know this, that is one of the biggest things. And I don't know how they get these people's names and their phone numbers, but it's a genuinely serious issue. And there are some elderly people who have given up their life savings. First of all, they've been scammed, and sometimes they're people are calling pretending to be their grandchild, but it's not them.
It's horrifying. Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft, he is going to be joining us at 8:10, and John Marsh is here too. I want to ask you, would it be inappropriate to ask him this? We keep bringing up this story. A couple of weeks ago, Stephanie Bell and I had a fundraiser. Governor Parsons said a few words, and you had Kehoe, the lieutenant governor and gubernatorial candidate, and you had Jay Ashcroft, Secretary of State, also a gubernatorial candidate, in the same room. Parson addressing the room, he said, as Republicans, we have to quit criticizing each other. Marsh, would it be wrong to ask Secretary of State Mr. Ashcroft at 8:10 when he's here, who does he think he was addressing specifically, if anybody? Is that wrong to ask?
No, that's a valid question, especially since he's an announced candidate for governor.
And especially since the question will be coming from you. All right now, Joe.
Works for me.
Listen, Seriously. And you wouldn't know it if you watch most of the national news outlets. You're not going to know this, but I would call these, I don't think I'm exaggerating, Hannah. I would call these stunning developments.
Rule number 2. If you have to tell people you're not exaggerating,
chances are
you might be.
But I don't think I am. Senator Chuck Grassley, Republican, Iowa, on the Senate floor yesterday. You heard the opening there. He is saying we have recorded phone calls. There are 17 in total. This with the guy who right now, he is the president of the United States right now. Very little attention being paid to him for allegedly taking money for political favors from other worldwide leaders, getting his son on a board. This guy is the sitting president of the United States. Nobody is paying attention to this. And apparently, with these phone calls, this Burisma executive said he recorded these with Joe is, quote, an insurance policy. That sounds to me, Brian, like mafioso insurance policies. When you're in the mafia, you got an insurance policy. You got blackmail. You got something. They were trying to allegedly blackmail the guy who is now sitting in the Oval Office.
The allegations, and you played the audio there, I thought what was very interesting and, yes, very powerful. The fact that he went to the Senate floor was interesting because it wasn't a press conference, but the Senate floor pretty much, and it's significant. And he is really not known traditionally for, he served with Biden for years. I mean, in the Senate. Grassley has been in the Senate for as long as I can remember. I mean, a long time, well before the flood of 1993. But it was interesting, and it has not gotten a lot of attention at this point.
And you're talking again, and I know you're probably already getting tired of hearing me say it at 6:15 in the morning here on June the 13th. He is the sitting president of the United States. You have a long-standing, well-respected senator saying we have FBI documents. We keep hearing this 1023. It's just a form the FBI uses whenever they talk to human witnesses, and they keep using the word human. They say, we talked to this person. Here's what they said. That goes on a form 1023.
As opposed to canine witnesses?
Well, that's the thing, because people have asked me, says, well, they're saying like human witnesses, and they keep using that phrase, but apparently that's the way it's supposed to go. Sitting president of the United States, apparently on tape. Now, what is in those phone calls, we don't know, but this Burisma official apparently kept this as sort of an insurance policy in case he got into, quote, a tight spot. Marsh, what could some of those tight spots be? You're paying, allegedly, then Vice President Joe Biden $5 million, in effect, for favors, political favoritism, financial favoritism. If we get into a tight spot, if you back out, I'm going to hold on to this. So that tells me that they already knew, even this Burisma official, if he's recording Joe Biden, then Vice President, if he's recording him and saving them in case he, quote, got into a tight spot, John, the guy knew the stuff they were doing was shady. They knew this was bad.
Then you're back to the question of who was recording who.
Who's recording too?
Maybe everybody was rolling tape.
And let's hear them. Let's hear the tapes. Now, Jamie Raskin, Democrat, he's saying, oh, listen, this stuff has been looked at. It's been investigated. Nothing to see.
That was checked out by the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Pennsylvania, Scott Brady. And that assessment of this tip came back empty-handed. They said there's no grounds to escalate this from an initial assessment.
And he's lying. He is lying. As a matter of fact, House Oversight Committee, they put out a press release and said, here are the facts. James Comer says, Jamie, you're flat out lying. This Democrat is lying to the American people.
Jamie Raskin lied, and the FBI told us that it was still a part of an ongoing investigation. According to Bill Barr, then Attorney General, they got the Form 1023, and because it was from one of the FBI's most credible, highest paid, most trusted, most effective informants, they took it seriously, but they didn't look into it.
That's something else we keep hearing. This informant, we keep talking about the informant, the human witness, credible, Form 1023. Everybody says without fail, this guy, I mean, he was a top-notch informant for the FBI, and he's saying, listen, I've got the goods on Joe.
Yeah, they said he was, been worked for them for years and been paid in excess of six figures. And yeah, like you said, they called him a highly credible informant.
And I don't
Corn Pop was a bad dude.
And I don't know who I'd be more mad at. The guy who is currently, people elected this guy to be president of the United States. I don't know if I'm more mad at those people. I don't know if I'm more mad at Joe and his kid. I don't know if I'm more mad at the national news outlets. Again, let me reiterate one more time. I will repeat. The sitting president of the United States of America, apparently on tape with this Burisma official. That'll be interesting.
There is, if you just type in Grassley speech in the search bar in Google, there are a couple of articles that come up. But the top one is C-SPAN. See, what Grassley did there is by going to the floor, it's carried live on C-SPAN, and they carried it. In the audio, it says there, Grassley says there are audio recordings between Burisma executives and Biden's. Fox News has a story. New York Post, but after that it drops off. Right. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Also on the show this morning, Scott Fawn, Missouri Times. Love that publication. He's got a TV show airs on Sunday called This Week in Missouri Politics. He's joining us. We have some substantial movement as it relates to some statewide races coming up in 2024.
Is he going to be joining us live from cheer camp? Did you see that?
Scott Fawn is he's got a daughter, and she's just an absolute sweetheart. She's a huge fan of producer Hannah. She goes to Blair Oaks Middle School. Her name is Millie. She listens to talk radio. She's super sharp, and she's going to cheer camp.
Oh, Millie's at cheer camp?
Is he at cheer camp?
I thought Scott was going to cheer camp.
It's got to be good on the bottom of the pyramid, wouldn't it?
We'll find out. We'll ask him. How's cheer camp going, Scott? Cheer, S-C-O-T-T. Okay, coming up a few minutes from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I'll stick to rapping instead of doing cheer songs. Coming up 6:25.
Yikes.
We're going to be doing your daily D.C. rundown. Looks like House Republicans are smooching.
And we know when we work together, we work on conservative issues, we're winning. We get more victories that way, and I think everybody wants to get back to that place.
House Speaker Kevin McCarthy yesterday getting us into today's daily D.C. Rundown. I'm Branden Rathert. Stephanie Bell is back on Monday. Speaker McCarthy appears to have resolved, at least for now, an impasse with some of the more conservative members of his caucus who had brought the chamber to a standstill last week. This, again, the guy, 15 votes to even put him in that position. What's interesting about this story, John? Kind of some of the same things that are happening on the House floor. We've seen this happen in the Missouri Senate. We saw it in the 2022 legislative session. We saw it a little bit this year, too. And I'm wondering, is this speaking to a bigger issue about fractures within the Republican Party?
Ask the governor, right?
Yeah, and we'll ask
He brought it up.
We'll ask Jay Ashcroft.
Exactly.
At 8:10 this morning.
We had so much discussion from the conservative caucus at the end of the previous session and said, well, we're over and done with. It's going to be, peaceful. Everybody get along. And it was just more filibusters and everything else in the Missouri Senate again this session.
Kumbaya.
Exactly. Let's hold hands, build a campfire, and roast some marshmallows. Matter of fact, Scott Fahn, when he's here at 7:10, there's a prominent Missouri state senator that's leaving, in effect, the St. Charles GOP because of this same kind of fighting that's happening in D.C. in the House that's been happening in the Senate in Missouri. That's why he's leaving. More on that coming up at 7:10. But McCarthy met with nearly a dozen lawmakers in his office, doing this to try to quell a revolt and jumpstart various priorities that had stalled last week amid the GOP infighting. He called it a productive meeting where everybody's attitude was, how do we find where we all work together? I don't know that I believe that. They always say that, but their actions show differently. By the way, when you're trying to defend the guy you back as it relates to documents that were seized by the FBI at Mar-a-Lago, reporter is asking McCarthy yesterday about, well, what about, the Trump documents, and then kind of makes a relation to the Biden documents.
Is that a good look for the former president to have boxes in a bathroom?
I don't know. Is it a good picture to have boxes in a garage that opens up all the time? A bathroom door locks.
At least the bathroom door has a lock.
Seriously. That's the level of security that's the bare minimum.
Oh, I hope Trump's attorneys listen to that, and I hope they bring that up.
Jesus Christ.
In the trial. Well, but the bathroom door, see, was locked. Gosh.
Well, my little diary in middle school had a tiny little lock on it, so it's secure.
Anybody ever bust into your diary?
I don't know. I don't think I had one.
Meanwhile, today, of course, Donald Trump set to make his first court appearance. Hopefully, they have that little gem there from McCarthy. Well, the bathroom door is locked. Donald Trump set to make his first court appearance today in a historic criminal case charging the former president with hoarding top-secret government documents, boastfully displaying them to visitors, and then trying to hide them from investigators. These are all allegations. They are charges, innocent until proven guilty. Trump approached his Miami court date with, Trumpism, insisting he has done nothing wrong over the years. And I got to ask this question, too, because we know 2016 they went after him. Next election, 2018, they went after him. 2020, they went after him. Everything, 2022, same thing. Everything has proved to be BS. The guy still walks the streets because he has not done anything wrong. Both can be true, right? All that other stuff is BS, but maybe he has done something wrong here, and I'm not saying he has. But because of the history of Democrats and progressives in D.C. going after him, it just doesn't hold water, the argument, because people know, hey, you've gone after this guy numerous times. But if you're an ardent Trump supporter, are you prepared if things do really legitimately go south for him? His court appearance today, of course, Gary Nolan, Fox News, going to be on this all day. Gary Nolan's here at 10 o'clock. This is interesting. North Carolina Senate Republicans filing legislation yesterday to strip Governor Roy Cooper of the power to appoint State Board of Elections members, intensifying a struggle over state government powers between the GOP-led General Assembly and the Democratic governor. Now, Cooper put a panel together basically trying to dismantle State Board of Election members because, they're smart conservatives. He wants dumb Democrats on there. So the legislature trying to undo that. Coming up a few minutes from now here, and that's your daily D.C. rundown on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I hope you'll stay with us about 5 minutes from now. Local sheriff ousted, and the story breaks my heart. I'll tell you why. Coming up 5 minutes.
to Denver starting next year for their annual trade convention. This all coming after growing concerns over
why is Dot Foods pulling a massive multi-million-dollar convention from the Show Me State, John? They're going to do it in St. Louis, big convention, bring all this money, thousands of people coming from all across the Midwest to take part in what is considered, this is one of the biggest food conventions in all of America, and it's been coming to Missouri for a lot of years, and they bring all their money and they leave their tax money here, and Missouri benefits, and they're pulling out this year, moving to another state. Any guesses as to why they are leaving St. Louis?
Couldn't involve a Bud Light can, could it?
It could. It's all that stuff. And this all ties into how these things are hurting the state of Missouri because of progressive politics and Democrats, and how Democrats right now are hurting your state, hurting your bank account.
I was going to guess because of the crime.
Yeah, and that's it. And it all intertwines. And I don't like to use the word woke. But woke policies on crime, woke policies from Bud Light, again, and what Bud Light has done. You know how many billions of dollars Bud Light continues to lose. Losing that money hurts Missouri, Anheuser-Busch here in Missouri. All of these things are hurting. So here's the story. Dot Foods, every year they've been coming to Missouri doing their big old food convention. Concerns over crime. They said no. And we hate to say we told you so.
No, we don't.
That's right. But, John, and I think we said this even in...
Told you so.
I don't like to say I told... There's no good way to say I told you so, but I told you so, and I actually thoroughly enjoy it because it's good for my ego. I was right, and it doesn't happen all the time. But we said this in 2016. Listen, people, well, we got to vote for her. She's Democrat, progressive, soft on crime, rainbows and unicorns. Well, why don't you take your rainbows and unicorns like Dot Foods has done and get your out of here. So we are losing money because of Democrats. We are losing money because of progressives, because of people like Kim Gardner, and furthermore, the people that vote for those people that vote for Democrat policies. So they're moving to Denver. Isn't that where the All-Star game got moved a couple of years ago? It was supposed to be in Georgia. And
yep.
they were upset with legislation there or something, so they took it out of one of the highest density black neighborhoods in all of America in Atlanta and moved it to one of the whitest states in the country, Colorado.
This is good for Michael Porter Jr., though.
Man, how about Michael Porter Jr.? Of course, he played Rockbridge, played for a couple of minutes at Mizzou, now plays for the Denver Nuggets. Big night last night for Michael Porter Jr.
It's over. At last, the long wait is over. After 47 years, the Denver Nuggets can finally call themselves NBA champions.
How about that? Denver Nuggets. And I don't follow basketball, least of my, the big four sports, my least favorite. And if you're doing 5 sports, then soccer would be number 5 on the list, and basketball would be number 4. Michael Porter Jr., local kid, his dad was involved in the women's program. I don't know if he still is or not, but obviously, man, they are basketball royalty here in mid-Missouri. But I like what Michael Porter Jr. said after the game, because to me, this is kind of a life lesson. It doesn't just apply to sports. But Michael Porter Jr., he didn't do incredibly well during the 5-game series. Poured in 16 last night.
They know what I'm capable of. They see me every day in practice. So the confidence they were giving me every day was what good teammates do. So I just stayed with it. You know, even tonight, it wasn't my best shooting night, but I just kept playing hard. That's all you can control is your effort. I could have scored 0 points, 2 points. Like, I don't care. We won a championship. Can't nobody tell me nothing.
Can't nobody tell me nothing. I got a championship, and that's right. But what I love there is he said, you know, even though I wasn't doing well, I still had people around me building me up and helping me and giving me the confidence. So it wasn't just me and my skill set. It was the people I had around me, John. Like, that's why
he picked last night to score his second double-double this season, so, you know, we can't fault him for that one.
No, in a deciding Game 5, you come through in the clutch. That's clutch, man. Michael Porter Jr., but he's right. You surround yourself with people that make you feel good and build you up instead of tearing you down and things like that. And that's why I'm pleased to have people like John Marsh, producer Hannah, and Brian Houseworth here. Stephanie Bell is usually here, too. She's going to be back with us on Monday. Welcome into the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. You want to get in touch with us, 874-9390, 874-9390. Walls closing in on Joe Biden. I would think. Apparently news yesterday, Chuck Grassley says there are recorded phone calls, at least 2, with the President of the United States of America and somebody from Burisma. The other things we're doing for you this morning. Coming up 7:10, Scott Fawn. Some potential, I think, significant developments in statewide Missouri politics. 8:10, Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft talking elder abuse. This breaks my heart, and it's because it's for a lot of reasons. Number 1, because it's a law enforcement officer. Number 2, because it's somebody that I have encountered and had some pretty good conversations with over the year. It's somebody you've heard right here on this show. And this morning, they are no longer the sheriff in Callaway County, Clay Chisholm. This story just breaks my heart for so many reasons, and this has to do with allegations. Story broke last year. Apparently, then Callaway County Sheriff Clay Chisholm, is at a fast food restaurant in mid-Missouri. It's suspected he's drinking and driving, and he gets busted. And apparently, then after that, John, more allegations.
A bunch of allegations have now surfaced that Clay Chisholm was drinking and buying liquor on the job, and they have affidavits, apparently, from people who say he was under the influence.
Apparently had a meeting with a judge where a judge said he smelled alcohol on him. I guess there was another officer. Somebody had spotted him in a patrol vehicle in the parking lot, passed out in uniform, weapons, all that stuff. So there's several of these incidents, and it breaks my heart because law enforcement, man, they have a tough time as it is right now. It breaks my heart because it's somebody that has been affiliated with this show. It's somebody who, by the way, when he ran for election first time back in 2016, he won with like 84% of the vote in Callaway County. 84% of the people that went to the polls on that day in November of 2016, 84% said, yes, this is our guy. He was so good at his job, so effective and thorough, and the people in Callaway liked what he did so much. Nope, 2020, people said, you're going to run. I'm not running against Clay Chisholm. People love this guy. Ran unopposed in 2020.
Uh-oh. We're getting fact-checked over MPJ.
Okay.
Yeah. Tolton, right?
Yeah. Yep. MPJ never played at Rockbridge. He went to Tolton Catholic.
Thank you. I appreciate the correction. I really do. Shout out to Tolton High School. Sorry, Rockbridge.
Your loss.
Well, I think his sisters played at Rockbridge.
It could be, yeah. And I don't know all of Mr. Chisholm's story. I really don't. But I've been very open about my struggles with alcohol over the years. 1,023 days without a drink in my life has changed, and it's a wonderful thing because I was destined to die a drunk, man. I really was, and it all came to a head August 24th, 2020. Hannah was here. She saw that day. We know what it was like.
It was an interesting day.
But I will say this, my life is so much different today, and it's not just because I'm not drinking, but it's how I live, my respect for other people, how I conduct myself, my ability to admit my wrongs, take ownership of stuff.
I was just getting ready to say, you've taken ownership and accountability for, the mistakes you've made, and you've been able to move on.
Yeah, and try to dedicate my time and life to helping other people that, are an alcoholic like me. And by the way, I'm a sober alcoholic. So, and I don't know if this is appropriate to even say here, because I don't know if Mr. Chisholm is an alcoholic or not. I don't know that. That's for him to decide. But based on these complaints, based on the fact that he is not the sheriff in Callaway County this morning, it seems like he's got a lot of stuff in front of him. And that
takes me back to the story we reported, what was it, 5-6 years ago when the Osage County Sheriff, Michael Dixon, you remember that story?
Yeah.
He was the guy who was accused of being drunk and waving a gun around at a bar in Hartsburg and ultimately ended up losing his law enforcement job.
Yeah. So I hope this guy is okay. Incredibly popular, but I sent him a text because I've been reaching out to him since he was first arrested back in October. I'm like, hey, man, not even professionally. And I don't mean when I've reached out to him, not like, hey, you want to come on the show and tell your side of the story? Not even like that, but more like, hey, man, I don't know your entire story. But I think I've been maybe where you are today, and let's think about where you are today. You have all of these very public allegations from fellow law enforcement. You have an allegation from a sitting judge. You are without a job. you've been arrested, you are tagged with a DUI. I'm guessing that's not a good place to be in life, and I've been in those places. And so I don't know if it's appropriate to share this, but I did reach out to Chisholm. I'm like, hey, man, seriously, if you need anything on a personal level, let me know. Hopefully he's going to be okay. I want to turn you on to this. This is less than 2 weeks away. This after the city of Columbia saying we are going to recognize June, I think it's June the 12th from now on, as a female veterans honoree. We're going to honor female veterans. And I'm going to ask this question, Hannah, only because Stephanie's not here. If she were here, I wouldn't ask this, John.
Uh-oh.
Is it? And I just wonder. I'm not saying we shouldn't, but we have Veterans Day, and we have all of these things, whether it's a holiday, whatever it is. Do we need to parse out, and here's a female Veterans Day, and here's a Veterans Day for this group of people and that group of people? Is that necessary, Hannah? And I'm just asking. I'm not saying we shouldn't, but it just, for every subgroup, we got to do, the first Black, Jewish, African-American, Prince, these first. And I just wonder, is that necessary as a female?
Personally, I don't think so.
Okay.
Because in a way, I think it almost takes away from being a veteran. Like, it almost makes you this weird subcategory of veteran. So I don't know. If
you're a veteran, you're a veteran.
Right. So, I mean, I don't see the point, but maybe there are others out there who want the extra day of celebration.
Well, either way, we're doing our Central Missouri Honor Flight Radiothon coming up not this Friday, but next Friday with A1 Containers. And is what we do. We ask for your help in sending veterans to Washington, D.C. so they can see the monuments of the wars that they have fought in. And I've been on one of these before. It is a beautiful experience. And if you can help create that experience for our veterans, join us next Feel Good Friday, Extreme Body and Paint. We're also doing a Wall of Honor to further honor our veterans. We're inviting you to share a picture of a special veteran in your life to our Wall of Honor. We do this every year. It is incredible. Go to the websites, 939theeagle.com or kwos.com. Upload a picture of your veteran. Tell us a little story. We want to thank Pro Pumping and Hydrojetting for that. Quick phone call, 874-9390 regarding the Veterans Hospital in Columbia. Cliff, what's up, man?
Hey, I just wanted to give you guys an update. Apparently, because you talked about it, I think, on Friday.
Yeah, there's a flag that's flying. Yeah, flag flying VA in Columbia. Apparently, it celebrates transgender gays. It's like a rainbow
absolutely.
flag.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to let you know that apparently over the weekend, somebody went up to the fourth floor of the parking garage and cut that down.
Really? Somebody with the hospital? Because I know a lot of folks had called the hospital. And here's something. I don't know if this was your experience, and I don't know if it's true, but I had several people say they'd called the VA, and the communication was almost like they hung up on you, like they didn't care that you wanted them to take the flag down.
I don't know that personally.
Okay.
I have no experience with that. But
so somebody cut it down. Was it the hospital or just some like Joe Q Public?
Joe Q Public, apparently, yeah.
Wow. All right. Cliff, thank you for the update on that. We appreciate you being a part of Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Coming up, after 40 years on the TV, Pat is saying goodbye. Goodbye. Buy 3 vowels there. Do all right. 2 O's. I'd get my money's worth. Goodbye. All right. It's coming up a few minutes from now. Good morning. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
morning, everyone. Welcome to Wheel of Fortune. Please do not adjust your sets at home. Chuck Woolery has not shrunk. A lot of people are playing with a vertical hold right now.
That was before Stephanie Bell was even born. Pat Sajak's very first episode of Wheel of Fortune, retiring after 40 years. Remember who he replaced, Marsh?
Chuck Woolery.
Chuck Woolery. Remember the other show Chuck Woolery used to host? The Dating Game, which I love. You'd get a dude up there, and they'd send these people out on a date, and then they'd see how it goes, and they'd come back. It was like high-tech dating back in the 80s. And remember Chuck Woolery's signature line? Whenever they'd go to a commercial break, he said, "We'll be back in 2 and 2." And I don't know why everybody just, we'll be back in 2 minutes, 2 seconds. We'll be back in 2 and 2. And
I thought there was another guy who hosted the Dating Game. I may be
Maybe
wrong.
it's not that's Chuck, was that Chuck Burris? It wasn't the Dating Game. It was the Match Game. The Match Game, maybe. It was a dating game.
I'm Googling
I
this.
can't keep them straight. All those 60s and the 70s game shows.
The point of this story, Pat Sajak is retiring.
The Match Game was hosted by Gene Rayburn.
Okay, what about the Dating Game? Chuck Woolery. Look at Chuck Woolery and how many shows he brought. Anyhow. And, of course, the great moments over the years. Pat Sajak watched the show as a kid. I haven't watched it in years.
Vanna's been on for about the entire run, too, hasn't she?
Man, they have been there for a long, long time. And you'd get some of those crazy puzzles. Like there was a puzzle, and this was only a couple of years ago. Like everything was up there, man. It said another feather in your, and then the letters AP, and there was a blank in front of AP. Another feather in your, what would the puzzle be, Hannah?
Cap.
Cap. That's right. It's not the way it worked out for this young lady.
The wheels on the bus go round.
Whoops. That's the wrong cut.
It's not how it worked out for this radio host either, is it?
How the heck did this get in here?
The wheels on the bus.
Oh, wheel. Somebody play wheel. I'm looking for Wheel of Fortune, not Wheels on the Bus.
By the way, to buy you some time while you figure out that mess, listener John just called in and said that the game show you are looking for, Brandon, is called The Love Connection.
I was close. Thank
There
you,
you go.
John.
What the heck?
Fact check. All right.
I find it a little ironic that a young Branden Rathert was obsessed with dating show games.
Wasn't watching dating show games.
You just rattled off like 12 different names there.
Well, now I don't have time to play this busted puzzle, but I do have some time to play this.
The wheels on the bus go round and round.
I'm sorry about that. It was supposed to be called Wheel of Fortune. It's Wheels on the Bus.
Nailed it.
We're off to a fine start. Thank goodness. Scott Vaughn from the Missouri Times is going to be joining us to bail out the show. He's here at 7:10.
From cheer camp.
From cheer camp. We'll find out how Scott Vaughn, big old burly southern hillbilly boy, how he's doing at cheer camp. He's here at 7:10 on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Good morning.
what is happening.
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you. Get ready, pal.
And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
The foreign national who allegedly bribed Joe and Hunter Biden allegedly has audio recordings of his conversation with them. 17 such recordings. The foreign national possesses 15 audio recordings of phone calls between him and Hunter Biden. The foreign national possesses 2 audio recordings between him and then Vice President Joe Biden. These recordings were allegedly kept as a sort of insurance policy for the foreign national in case that he got into a tight spot. The 1023 also indicates that then Vice President Joe Biden may have been involved in bereavement employing Hunter Biden.
Senator Chuck Grassley, Republican, Iowa, laying it out there saying, listen, we have on very good authority, there are recorded phone calls with the current sitting president of the United States. We have Joe Biden on tape, according to this Burisma executive. We have the president of the United States of America when he was the vice president. We have him on tape. Now, exactly what's on those tapes, we don't know yet. But I think, and I don't think I'm exaggerating, Hannah, I think these are stunning developments. That audio was an interview that he was doing on MSNBC. And then later he did one on CNN, John. Oh, no, wait, I was wrong. That was not on. This story is nowhere, and it really is sad. Think about this. Obviously, all the attention paid on Trump right now. The guy who currently takes naps in the White House and eats pudding for lunch. You have a very well-respected, long-time Republican senator from the state of Iowa saying, listen, there are recorded phone calls. And this Burisma executive, apparently, according to what these folks in D.C. are saying, he recorded the phone calls with Joe Biden as insurance in case something went wrong. So that tells me there was already some dastardly deeds taking place, because if I'm on the up and up, if I'm doing the next right thing, I don't need to go, you know what? I'm going to secretly record my conversation with Scott Vaughn from the Missouri Times in case I need something later. If that's my mindset, I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing. And Scott wouldn't be doing that anyway. Scott Vaughn, Missouri Times, hanging out with us this morning. Welcome into the show, man.
Brayden, this isn't being recorded, is it?
It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. John Marsh, Brian Houseworth, producer Hannah. I am Branden Rathert. Stephanie Bell is back on Monday. Scott Vaughn. Missouri Times every weekend has a really, really good show. It's called This Week in Missouri Politics. Check your local listings to see where you can watch it. A really, really good show talking about Missouri politics. Let's start here because this is kind of happening on a national landscape. McCarthy yesterday apparently able to herd some cats and get the Republicans in the House like, hey, y'all gotta get your stuff together. So we see Republicans fighting there, and it's basically the conservatives and then the more conservatives. We've seen this in the Missouri Senate for 2 years now. And then with this, developments regarding Tony Lavasco and the St. Charles GOP. What's the story here, Scott?
I tell you, I've always been a Republican, more of a business Republican. There's a difference in Republicans and that if you sign both sides of the paycheck, you got some sense, and if not, probably from St. Charles County. But Tony Lavasco is a happy warrior. He is a great person. He's right wing. He's crazier than a pet coon right wing. You don't even know. But I tell you, the old boy is a nice person. He's the kind of a person that brings folks into his cause because you got that energy, and you just whatever he's doing, you're like, okay, he's a good guy. And he came into the Republican Central Committee, which is where all hope and ambition goes to die, and took it over because they hated the legislative delegation because the most right-wing, the most insane delegation in the history of this state is St. Charles County. I mean, they are crazy. I think the state mental hospital should be moved to St. Charles so those folks don't have to drive so far over to Fulton. But they're not crazy enough for the Central Committee. So Tony thought he could fix it, and he saw real quick. He got out. The activist got out activisted.
All right, Scott Vaughn, Missouri Times, joining us here on the show. But I'm wondering, let's look big picture here. You've got the Republicans. There's a group of them, a faction of them, that have been fighting basically at least 2 legislative sessions now to the point where it's gumming up business. And then you've got what's been happening in the House in D.C. Is this speaking to a bigger problem within the Republican Party?
Oh, I think it's speaking to a bigger problem in our culture. But yes, the Republican Party is the most reflective in. It's the Facebook thing. It's the I want what I want now and only what I want. And if I don't get exactly what I want, nobody gets anything, I'm going to throw a temper tantrum. It's just childishness. I think it's a cultural thing. And I think, obviously, we've let suburban people be in government too much.
All right. Our guest, Scott Vaughn, Missouri Times, hanging out with us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Yeah, Brandon, thanks, Scott. It's always great to have you with us. I'd point out about Lovasco, Representative Lovasco. He's not been one at times. He has bucked even the governor. I remember him voting against the Wentzville GM tax credits, and he's a supporter of criminal justice reform too, which is not always the case with some of his colleagues. I want to ask you about Scott, Senator Denny Hoskins. I've been airing a news story this morning. He represents Cooper and Howard and Saline counties in our listening area. So you folks in Boonville and Fayette and Marshall listening to us certainly know Senator Hoskins.
Now, Brian, don't try to tell folks he's a Jim the Wonder Dog fan. He is an old drum fan. He's a Warrensburg boy.
I understand, but he definitely has a couple of our counties. But what are his chances, you think, of winning a primary for Secretary of State and B, a general?
Oh, I think, like all these races, it's going to be the landscape, right? I mean, if he's running against Caleb Browden, I personally believe if Caleb Browden files for statewide office or announces, he'll put $1 million in the bank in, a month. I think a month's probably longer than it really will take. That's a lot to run against. And somebody's going, this issue, this vote, you know what? Eric Schmidt has showed you, and Donald Trump has shown you, and just go through the list. Those things don't really matter if you have a lot of money to run your campaign and define yourself and define your opponent. If Caleb Browden runs, he's going to have all the money in the world to do that. Getting people to care about Secretary of State, not the easiest thing. But if you just have Shane Schuler, nice guy, Greene County clerk, ran for Secretary of State before, where does Shane get his money? That's the question. Denny Hoskins has a couple of honey holes he should be able to raise money from. And he's already got a little bit of a war chest from being in the state Senate. And he'll be able to raise money not for Secretary of State. He'll be able to raise money for the next 6 months because he's going to be a senior senator. So it depends on the landscape and who's in that race. If Denny Hoskins and Shane Schuler, I think Denny Hoskins is a favorite because of the money.
Very interesting.
Scott, if the GOP primary for Missouri governor was next week, your take on it from watching the announced candidates so far, who'd be the winner?
But announced next week, Jay Ashcroft wins by a chunk. But that's the campaigns are mattering more going forward. I think this campaign is going to come down to two things. There's the wild card and Wild Bill Eigel. Gosh, I listened to the interview here on this. He is so good. He has got his media game down. Bill is running a great campaign. Secretary Ashcroft probably got in the race last. He has to run the least effective race, frankly. Probably not done anything to set himself apart as of yet. Mike Kehoe, he's running a great race. I think right now the name ID of Jay Ashcroft is winning the race. That's my opinion. But Mike Kehoe's going to have money, and we'll do a little foreshadowing. I think one of the larger fundraising supporters of Jay Ashcroft may be willing to do an event for Mike Kehoe. And that could really, you'd look at this race very differently if you saw some of the Ashcroft's bigger financial supporters even splitting their financial resources with Kehoe. And I think if we get to visit next week, I can tell you about a pretty big development in the race. It's a development nobody's going to see right up front, but it'll have a major impact this time next year when everybody's focused on this race.
All right, Scott Vaughn's Missouri Times hanging out with us. Also hosts the TV show This Week in Missouri Politics. You can see it on Sundays. The other thing that I was wondering, and we can hear a little bit in the background from where you are on the phone this morning, but Hannah says you're at cheer camp. Is this like you, the hillbilly in cowboy boots from Southeast Missouri? What are you doing at cheer camp?
I feel like this is the appropriate time and place to come out. But yes, I would like to make an announcement on Wake Up in Missouri. I am transitioning. I am going to be a cheerleader, not a male one. I don't want to be stereotyped, but I am coming out, and I'm really excited about it, and I hope you all support me in my journey.
That's a scary thought.
Wow, new pronouns for Scott.
And my new endorsement campaign for Bud Light I'd like to announce here also.
Where is your cheer camp this morning? It sounds good.
Well, it was in Springfield, but I'm actually here in South City, St. Louis, your old stomping ground. And I got to tell you something, Brandon. Yeah. I am very disappointed. As an avid Bud Light drinker, all these liberal enclaves that say they're woke and say that they're progressive, none of them still serve Bud Light. The transphobia in South City, St. Louis is very hard for me to accept.
Scott Vaughn, Missouri Times. I know it's only Tuesday. Any idea what's coming up if we tune in to watch This Week in Missouri Politics on Sunday?
Oh, yeah. Go fight. Oh, sorry. I was distracted. Jason Dean, senator from the Boot Hill, he's going to run for Senate leadership. He's going to announce it and tell us all about it Sunday on This Week in Missouri Politics.
All right. Well, get your pom-poms, man. It sounds like you got to get back to it, bud.
Oh, I'm in it, baby. I'm getting fitted for my skirt today. I'm excited.
Scott Vaughn, Missouri Times. We love you, brother. Have a good one.
You too, bro.
All right. Hold the phone up.
Let's go.
Nice. That's pretty good. Scott Vaughn, Missouri Times. Welcome into the show. Wake up,
Scott Vaughn in a skirt is not a vision I needed to see.
You know, we've been sort of leaning towards this with Scott with his announcement. He wanted to be a meter. Well, we can't call them meter maids anymore. A meter person in Jefferson City. So, you know, it's a new world, ladies and gentlemen.
Part of the uniform.
874-9390, 874-9390. Do you want to cover this a little bit off the text? We were talking earlier. I think it's Colombian. I don't know if it's going to be a statewide thing. But it's saying, hey, June 12th, we're going to celebrate female veterans. And I just asked the question. I don't know. I'm not a chick. The only chick on the show this morning is Hannah, and I'm only asking the question.
And Scott Vaughn.
Because Stephanie Bell's not here. That's the only reason I'm even asking this question. She's back on Monday. But should there be a separate thing for female veterans?
I think it's ironic that you're the guy among us asking the question who happens to be the son of a female veteran.
That's true.
And a stout veteran. My mom's badass, man. She worked on the SR-71s, B-52, T-38s, U-2s, and she was the boss in the 70s. A chick boss over dudes working on billion-dollar spy planes and fighter jets. That was my mom. I should ask her, Mom, do you think there should be something separate to honor you as a chick veteran?
I mean, I'm not a veteran, obviously.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, it takes away from being a veteran when you have to make it this subcategory.
And everybody on text this morning at 874-9390 agreeing. Coming up, we are going to do What's Hot with Hannah at 7:25-ish.
There's two big things that get to intersect in this morning's story, and it's weird animal things and JCMO.
All right, JCMO.
They intersected.
Weird animals at the intersection of JCMO and weird animals. That's coming up. 7:20. Good morning, 725-ish, which means it's
7:25.
home run. By the way, before we get into what's hot with Hannah, several texts, 874-9390, regarding traffic. This in Columbia, 3M, Route B. Apparently, traffic at a standstill being navigated by emergency personnel into the eastbound lanes to get around it. So that's what I can tell you right now. And I thank some of our folks, Matt and AJ and Sharon, for getting us a text. If you got a good handle on what's going on, Houseworth is working on this for you too. But Route B around 3M, apparently traffic is jacked up there. What's hot with Hannah today?
You know, we should, at this point, just basically rename this segment into Weird Stuff That Animals Do. Because it has been a trend over the last several months in What's Hot with Hannah. There's been escaped zoo animals, stolen zoo animals, animals that just end up in weird places where they're not supposed to. And that happened yesterday afternoon. But the real kicker is that it happened here locally in our capital. Did you see this on KRCG's website?
What happened?
There was a deer booking it down High Street yesterday afternoon, and someone luckily was able to grab a quick video of this, but this deer got tripped up a little bit and slammed into a window at Sweet Smoke Barbecue downtown. Shattered the window.
Bump.
Yep, shattered the window. Apparently there was a guy eating inside the restaurant right next to that window, and he got glass shards in his food. That's how hard that this deer hit the window.
Hey, they charge him extra for that? And you got some extra stuff there in your food, dude.
But, I mean, luckily the window didn't completely break through, but it's definitely shattered.
So these people hanging out yesterday at Sweet Smoke Barbecue, they're on East High Street just having lunch, and all of a sudden, this deer just comes.
Well, and the video is posted on the Wake Up Facebook page. It's within the KRCG article. But the deer is like sprinting down the sidewalk for who knows how long, and just so happens to slam into the window at Sweet Smoke, you know, right in front of the camera almost. But can you imagine just sitting there minding your own business, eating your lunch, eating your Sweet Smoke Barbecue, and all of a sudden the window next to you gets shattered by a deer?
Crazy.
It was a doe, if that matters.
I was going to say, so the line, the buck stops right here, that wouldn't work here.
Oh, dear.
No, I kept going.
Well, I wonder, so here, for example, here in the Wake Up Mid-Missouri studios, we do have a few windows, lets us kind of see out into the world that we're all taking part in this morning.
Oh, man. I think I know where you're going with this.
And we have all the time birds come. And all of a sudden, we'll be sitting here and we'll be talking about the state of the nation. And Joe Biden apparently recorded phone calls with this Burisma dude. The FBI has the phone calls, and we'll be talking about something serious. And all of a sudden, and we'll look. And
it scares you.
It's scary. It's these birds crashing into windows, and I'm wondering, like, are these like kamikaze pilots? Is it bird suicide?
I have sat here and watched the same bird run into the same window probably 10 plus times.
Yes.
And you just wonder when the poor guy is just going to figure it out that he can't go through there.
Oh, I don't know what's going on. I keep trying. It's like Joe Biden. That's what I envision these birds. And does anybody know why they do it? Is it because it's glass and they can't see? Because from one of the things I understand, apparently a lot of wildlife, people, sometimes they get frustrated and people put
Might be your politics.
Doesn't like them.
Doesn't like you.
That animals, they don't comprehend glass a lot. So obviously they can't see the glass trying to fly through it. But I think sometimes they're trying to hurt them. Like, I'm done, man. Steady diet of worms and berries. I'm tired.
Well, do you remember a couple months ago when there were deer on the roof?
Oh, yeah.
Was it Mid-City Lumber?
Yes. How about that?
What the heck is going on in Jeff City?
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. What the heck is going on with strangers in high-tech begging for honeymoons? That story's coming up 5 minutes from now.
And the cheer we cheer for Muslim athletes like Kareem Al-Jabbar. So I'm trying to think, where was the last place I was? It's hard to keep track. Yeah, you're right, Ireland. 8, EIGH%. They shot him. God bless you all. Let's go lick the world. Let's get it done.
What the hell is he talking about, Hannah? Marsh, any ideas?
No.
I don't understand it.
EIGH.
EIGH. 8%. I wonder how he didn't spelling bees. Dang it. And the confidence. EIGH. 8. Gosh, he's dumb. D-U-M-M. Dumb.
He's OLD.
And I love this because Sean Hannity last night interviewing potential Democratic presidential candidate Gavin Newsom in California, current California governor. And he asked him, and he's playing Gavin Newsom these clips of Biden just, falling down, falling off his bike, falling on stage, falling down steps, embarrassing the country on a worldwide stage. He plays all this. And this is an exercise and to show you how a lot of these Democrats, and it's so pervasive throughout the entire party, whether it's right here on a local level in mid-Missouri, whether it's on a state level, or whether it's on a national level, these Democrats, I just don't understand a lot of them. Sean Hannity plays all these clips for Gavin Newsom, and then he asks Gavin Newsom, do you think this guy is capable of being president?
I don't think he's capable. I know he's capable. I see results. I've seen a masterclass in results.
I'm just I'm baffled. John, you ever get some kind of surgery and they put you out? And then when you come to out of the grogginess, you're it takes you a minute or two to get your bearings because you're coming out from this deep sleep, high state, whatever you want to call it. And it takes you a minute and you come together and you're
where am I?
Oh, yeah. And that, number one, it feels like the world we live in now sometimes, I think. What are we doing? These people think this stuff is okay.
Yeah, Gavin Newsom was all over the place, though, was he? He was praising Trump during the pandemic and all that. He's hard. He's a hard one to call.
He is. And, of course, he's a very gifted speaker. He's a good talker. He's devastatingly handsome.
There it is. Brandon and his man crushes.
I'm not man crushing on Gavin Newsom, man. But here's what I would do, because I love the response that he gave here.
I don't think he's capable. I know he's capable.
I don't think he's capable. I know he's capable. As a responsible journalist, John, I want to fix the audio now. And from now on, whenever Gavin Newsom talks about Joe Biden and his own party.
I don't think he's capable.
There you go.
There you go.
What did Gavin Newsom say about the ability of Joe Biden to be president?
I don't think he's capable.
And it's factually accurate, isn't it?
It is totally accurate.
He said that.
Or not.
Yeah.
Context matters. Welcome into the show. Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I'm Branden Rathert. Mr. John Marsh is here.
Good morning.
There's producer Hannah.
Hello.
Steph is going to be back on Monday. Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft. He's hanging out with us, too, talking about elder abuse. There's an elder... Stop it, Hannah. I know.
I didn't say anything.
There is a statewide campaign highlighting elder abuse, how to spot it, then what do you do? Because I think really it's one of those things that maybe we don't think about. We talk about child abuse, sex abuse, things like that, elder abuse. And I think it is reasonable then to ask the Secretary of State, what about as it relates to Joe Biden, elder abuse, because that's been out there for a long time. Last week we got to looking through the American Medical Association of what is elder abuse. And I'm telling you, it matches up with what's happening with Joe Biden. I think the other thing that John Marsh is going to ask Jay Ashcroft. A couple weeks ago, Jay Ashcroft, Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, both running for governor, both currently in a statewide elected office. And Governor Parsons said with the two gentlemen in the room, Republicans got to quit criticizing other Republicans. It'll be interesting to see what Jay's because I'm wondering, was he talking about one or the other? Was he talking in general? I can't wait to see how he answers the question.
We just got a text at 874-9390. I assume this is about Gavin Newsom, but Sandy, she said, ew, I don't think he's handsome at all.
Well, you know what? And I think her point is because he is so icky, right? He's that slick. He's like this dude. He should be. There's a lot of other things he could be doing, but he's icky. He's slimy. And think about this. When dudes talk about a hot chick, man, I'd love to date her. She's hot. And it's like this. It's like, dude, no matter how hot she is, there is some dude somewhere who is sick of her crap. It doesn't matter how hot she is. So your personality can detract from your physical looks. I believe that. And maybe that's what Sandy's saying. I don't know. Me and relationships. Hey, anytime I talk relationships, you better turn, not only you better turn your car radio up, but you better look at the radio so you can better hear what I'm saying when I talk about relationship stuff.
I mean, you have really solid advice on what not to do.
874-9390. A couple of other things I do want to share with you off the text. We're getting some, a lot of folks been texting. Traffic issue, Columbia, in front of 3M on Route B. Apparently there's a traffic backup. Brian Houseworth right now is working on getting that. And then we asked about, apparently a deer crashed into a window, Sweet Smoke Barbecue, Jefferson City, yesterday. Freaked people out. Nobody was hurt. I'm wondering, John, does anybody know, then did all the patrons, after they freaked out for a second, after this deer comes crashing into the window, didn't break it, like, did people then laugh after that? Like, was it like comic relief in the middle of a stressful Monday in the capital city?
I don't know. The guy got the glass shards out of the window, and his food probably wasn't laughing too hard.
So we got to wondering about birds, because we get this all the time, and I'm sure occasionally birds will hit a window. But like
cardinals will do it. Male cardinals are big on fighting with themselves in the
Go figure. It's the male species.
There you go.
Speaking of cardinals hitting a wall, man, Cardinals have lost 13 of their last 16. 16th loss by 1 run over the year. Okay, we're getting a little bit of a handle on what's happening. Traffic issue in Columbia.
Yeah, I've been obviously checking the tweets from Joint Communications. They're too busy to talk right now, but I can tell you that there's been a crash at Paris in Waco roads in that area that is blocking Paris Road completely. Now, that is a huge area for people going to work at Swift and going to work at Nabisco. I still call it Nabisco. You've got Kraft. You've got all sorts of employers, PepsiCo up in that area, Quaker Oats. So a lot of folks are being impacted by this. You're being urged to avoid the area. There's no word on possible injuries. And Brandon, we don't have a time frame right now, but basically it's easier said than done. But if you can avoid Paris Road and Waco, do so. That's hard to do when people are going to work, so it's completely blocked right now.
The Columbia Fire Department put on their Twitter account about 25 minutes ago that it is an extrication, so it could take a while. Yeah, I would think so. Not a whole lot on the scanner about that, surprisingly, at least not right now, unless they've gone to another channel. But yes, that makes sense because it's blocked completely.
Man, have you ever been extricated from a car with the jaws of life?
No.
No.
Is that when you went down the side of a mountain?
No, that was I-55 in St. Louis during the Great Floods in '93. Instead of working that day, couldn't get to. I was working my way through school, couldn't get to school because of all the floods, couldn't get to a lot of our jobs, so we went and golfed and drank whiskey instead.
As one does.
And then at the end of the day, somebody was extricated with the jaws of life, and it made KSDK front news with Dick Ford, legendary anchor Dick Ford. Anyhow, let me ask you, so I love you said you called Joint Communications to get a handle on what's going on, but they couldn't answer all of your questions because they're too busy. I want to ask you and John this, as legendary news directors, 60 combined years of experience here in mid-Missouri. Is that hard for you? Because you know they're busy because they're dealing with an accident in traffic, and then you're trying to call, hey, man, sorry to bother you. I know you're busy, but we got to inform the public here.
John, I'll let you go first.
Well, nature of the biz depends on Brian can relate, depends on the jurisdiction, too. Some law enforcement agencies are a whole lot more cooperative in that regard with the media than others are.
Yeah, exactly. And to make clear, we had a wreck on Route B, same road essentially. Paris Road is Route B yesterday, and I called and when I came in, and they had to hang up on me. They were that busy. So I just know this morning, I just am taking it from their tweet. I'll call them when it slows down a little bit. Normally, if they can help you, they can. But John is right. Some and when they're just swamped, they're swamped, especially if they're getting 911 calls.
Right, and it's hard to balance that because then our job, and that's why people tune in to Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and 104.5 News Radio 950 KWOS. What's going on? What's getting in my way right now? And so sometimes take you a little bit behind the scenes. It's kind of difficult on our end. We're trying to get this info But then there's challenges that we get sometimes.
Yeah, and I can tell you for sure. I just know that they're swamped, so I'm going to wait a little bit. But yes, I think their tweets, I think, and the extrication information Hannah added is good. It's just this is a mess, and we continue to see this is a bigger issue, Brandon. We continue to see more and more wrecks on that stretch on Route B in Paris Road, and the city's actually doing a safety survey. But a lot of that is down towards. I've talked to John Ogan down towards the. It'd be Vandiver, but I mean, up near that food corridor, we're seeing more and more wrecks, and we're seeing, especially at this time of the morning, traffic is jammed. You just know it is.
I would still say if we could fix the tri-level in Jefferson City first, please. I was talking to somebody over the weekend. I'm like, seriously, man, if you get bored one day, approach come cross the Missouri River Bridge into Jefferson. And I know you know where you're going in Jefferson City, but put your Google Maps on and ask Google Maps to take you. I'm not kidding, man. She'll smoke and start yelling because she gets freaked out on the tri-level, the Google Maps does.
Even though I go through there every single day to go home, if I ever am using GPS to get to a different part of Jeff City or anything, I still get confused going through there trying to make sense of what GPS is telling me.
Like
I go through there every day.
Chevy Chase in European Vacation, where he gets stuck permanently in the traffic circle.
Somebody says, you know what caused that wreck? Idiots. The road is nuts anymore. Hope everyone is okay. And the other thing that's part of our responsibility is trying to get you, chat with these folks, joint communications. So whenever there's traffic issues, emergency issues that might get in your way, that's one of our responsibilities. The other responsibility we have is try to explain to you why birds apparently crash into windows sometimes. And thanks to folks texting us at 874-9390. This is on the heels of a deer crashing into the glass Sweet Smoke Barbecue, Jeff City. We have birds that come. And the funny thing is we have birds, and because sometimes a bird hits a window once, and they're like, oh, crap, this isn't going to work. And they're not insane. Insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. They don't do that, leave. But then we have some birds here. They keep at it, and we can't figure out why.
Listener Stuart texted us. He said, that bird is fighting his reflection in the window. It's a mating thing.
Mm-hmm. So he thinks it's competition.
I guess so.
So, like circa 1973, John putting on the butterfly sport jacket, getting ready to head to Club 54 in New York. He's picking the fro and stuff, and John Marsh is looking in the mirror because he's going to go, check out the scene.
Club 54, huh?
In New York, yeah.
Okay.
That's how you rolled, right? And then you look in the mirror, and you start punching the mirror because, look at that good-looking dude. That's competition. Is that kind of the same thing, Hannah?
Dudes are weird. I am
present company included.
Yeah. I am not surprised that it's male birds that do this. Because it just makes sense.
They also like to fight with themselves in your rear view outside mirror on your car and then poop down the side of your car is what they like to do.
And here's another, before we move forward, here's another rule I've learned over the years. If you have a white vehicle, when the bird craps on your car, they crap black. If you have a black vehicle, they crap white. It's
inclusivity.
That's right. It's just the law. It's an immutable law. Coming up a few minutes from now, I saw this.
190 points. The Nasdaq up 203. S&P 500 up 40.
We'll look at futures coming up at 8:25 in the Morning Bell Business News with a little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you. Of course, she's not here today. She is back on Monday. The other thing, we have this just now coming out. Inflation remains painfully high. New inflation report out this morning. More details on that inflation report. That's coming up at 8:25 here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Good news for folks. Traffic in Columbia, Route B, 3M. Sharon and a bunch of other listeners texting us at 874-9390. Says apparently the accident is all cleared up now. All the emergency vehicles have left. Things are good to go. But we do, Brian Houseworth, he is right. He's touched on something here. We're also getting a lot of texts, and we've heard this over the years. This is not just this morning, but that Route B through that area, you've got the glass place, you got a few restaurants, you've got 3Ms, you got all that stuff, and that straightaway road with, and I don't know what the speed limit is offhand, but apparently causing problems. Welcome to the show. Glad you could be here. Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft, 810, elder abuse in Missouri and in D.C. And I don't even know if Jay Ashcroft will. He might say, you know what, Brandon, I'm not going to try to do that. Take advantage of our elder abuse campaign and tie it into the president. But I think it's a legitimate question. Mr. Ashcroft here, 810. Here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Saw this yesterday. I'm in Columbia, downtown Columbia, and I drive, and I see this car, and it's got the paint on the back of the car, like sometimes, yay, Ashland, state champs or something like that. Well, what I saw on the back of this car, I'm like, no. And I'm on the phone and driving, even though I'm not supposed to. I went up.
It's illegal, you know.
I know. I went up 8th, turned then right onto Cherry, went back down 9th, came back around. And I got things to do. I'm trying to get to the next thing in my day. But what I saw on the back of this car window, I'm like, that cannot be.
So what did you do?
So I go and I park and I get some money out of my console and I put it in that little parking meter. And then I thought, oh, wait, it's Columbia. This isn't Jefferson City. I'm good.
Man, just had to get that dig in there, didn't you?
Put some money in the parking meter and I take out my phone and I go up and I take a picture. And what it was, it said, and I sent the picture to everybody.
You did. You're like, is this a thing?
These people put on the back of their window, we're on our honeymoon, help us celebrate, go to Venmo and donate money to our honeymoon. What incredible bull is this?
Why?
You're begging for money from for people you don't even know so you can go to Hawaii? Well, that's insane.
First off, their first mistake was honeymooning in Columbia, Missouri. But, I mean, people actually send money that way. I'm in several bridal groups on Facebook, and some people have posted that if they do that for their bachelorette trip or honeymoon, they'll get a couple $100 if you're road tripping and lots of people see your back windshield.
I just can't imagine that somebody thinks that much of themselves that they'd say, look at me, I got to advertise to the world I'm on my honeymoon, and not only that, I'm going to ask you for money. I know I don't know you. You're panhandling at 63 and 70. You're no different than anybody panhandling.
Yeah, but if people actually send you money, then it's worth it, right?
Yeah, there is that.
You have to declare that as income.
Yeah. The ends justifies the means. Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft hanging out with us, 810 here. We're talking elder abuse on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
What is happening?
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you. Get ready, pal.
And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
I mean, every election we've now seen this. 2016, it was a dossier that they used. They knew it was false. They used it to go get a warrant to spy on his campaign. 2018, it was the Mueller investigation.
Okay.
2020,
let me just stop you.
Laptop story with the 51 former Intel officials. 2020.
Let me stop you right there, sir. First of all, I want to go back to just one of the things that you said.
Now they're indicting him before the 2024 presidential race.
Jim Jordan nailing it on the head when he lays out the timeline, and you can point. 2016, here's what they did to try to go after Trump. Midterms of 2018, then it was this, then 2020, and then 2022. He is absolutely right. What I find more interesting there, he's on CNN, which, by the way, we're seeing a lot more Republicans on CNN nowadays and seeing a lot more Democrats, incidentally, on Fox. But he's answering her question. He is not doing anything, I think, that's out of line here. She doesn't like the answer he's giving because he's saying, look, 2016, it was this, midterms 2018, and he is absolutely correct. And she's trying to shut him down. They turn him down. She's talking over.
Let me just stop you.
Laptop story with the 51 former Intel officials.
And they're even turning his mic down because they don't want him to say what he is saying. So check this out. Yesterday, Chuck Grassley, Senate floor, saying, listen, the executive who allegedly paid Biden has audio recordings of conversations with Joe Biden, the president of the United States. And on this form, we keep hearing about this FBI-generated 1023 form, this form that the FBI agents will fill out whenever they get any kind of information. And I am quoting, this is alleging criminal bribery, a criminal bribery scheme between the then Vice President Joe Biden and a foreign national that involved influence over U.S. policy decisions. Bribery, the guy who is currently in the White House. That's what's happening this morning. This guy is right now the president of the United States. Very little attention being paid to him. Good morning. Welcome into the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. There's Mr. Brian Houseworth.
It's good to see you, sir.
Marsh is here.
Yes, sir.
Producer Hannah.
Hola.
I'm Branden Rathert. Staff back on Monday. Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft is joining us. There is a campaign. You probably have heard some of this on KWOS and 93.9 The Eagle. There is a campaign. Worldwide Elder Abuse Day, June 15th. Each year, 5 million Americans experience elder abuse. Want to bring in Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft, who you hear the voice on the campaign. Secretary of State, Mr. Ashcroft, welcome into the show. Tell us about the importance of identifying elder abuse.
Well, good morning. Thanks for having me in. I want to reiterate, it's Elder Abuse Awareness Day. We're not in favor of elder abuse, but we find that the elderly are abused financially, physically, and we want to make sure people are aware of that so that they're keeping in mind their mom, their dad, their grandfather, their grandparent, the elderly people they love, so they're looking for the signs so that we can stop this from happening, so we can help individuals that have it happen to them, and we can stop it from happening in the future.
Jay, I've been talking about this all morning, and I got to preface it by saying this is a serious question that I'm about ready to ask you, okay? And it comes up because we got talking about this last week. People keep talking about elder abuse as it relates to Joe Biden. And so I got to, okay, so what is elder abuse? Started looking at AMA definition and various different iterations of what is considered elder abuse. And so I'm serious when I ask this question. In my mind, I look at the tenets of elder abuse, and then I look at what they're doing to Joe Biden, how they prop him up, roll him out on a dolly every day, go put him up on a podium, and then have him try to utter some words. That's elder abuse. I promise I'm not trying to be funny or cute here, but if you look at your involvement with this elder abuse awareness ahead of World Awareness Day as it relates to elder abuse, do you think that they're abusing Joe Biden?
You know, if you look at a strict definition of it, yes, you could consider it abuse of Joe Biden. Obviously, what comes to most people's mind are grandparents being taken financially advantage of, elderly individuals who are being locked in their house or are not being taken care of at nursing homes and things like that. But clearly, I would make the argument that what's being done to President Biden, he just doesn't seem to have the mental capacity, and it seems like they are taking advantage of him.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I want to highlight this here. People say, well, you got to quit talking about him like that. He's an old man. This is why it's important. Yeah, he's losing was losing them before he was elected. This stuff matters because the guy is the president of the United States. This guy goes out on a worldwide stage. He represents you and Houseworth and Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft, and it is embarrassing to me personally. It's bad for us as a country. Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft here talking Worldwide Elder Abuse Awareness Day. I got awareness. Sorry about that, Secretary. Awareness Day.
Absolutely, Awareness Day, and certainly it's an issue. Branden, thank you so much. Mr. Secretary, I want to ask you about what seems to be a common scam right now that I continue to hear about. My own parents have received, they say, a number of calls every week, almost every week, certainly every month. But it's people basically, they're scammers. They're saying they're from a government agency or they're, and they want money. And of course, it's a scam. This is happening with elderly people I know around the state. And in some cases, they're fearful and are turning over some of their money. What can be done to stop this? And how are they getting people's phone numbers? That's another concern.
Well, the first thing I would say is that anytime when someone's pressuring you over the phone to have to pay money, if it has to be made an immediate decision, that should raise alarm bells. If it has to be done over the phone, you can't see documentation of it, you can't talk to someone in person, that should raise alarm bells. And what really helps is to have younger people, either children, family members, just friends of older individuals, that those older individuals know that they can call and have someone with a different point of view that maybe isn't so anxious about making a decision can help them make a right decision. There was another scam that was going around quite a while, a couple of years ago, where crooks would call up like they were like they had the individual's son or grandson in a jail in a foreign country and said, hey, we need you to send this money right away so that we can keep your child from being put into the prison instead of just the jail. When you have to make that immediate decision, when they're asking for money over the phone, those should be warning signs.
Yesterday, as a matter of fact, there is a listener, I'll just give her first name, Tiffany, and we've chatted a little bit via Facebook, sent me a text yesterday, and it relates to stuff as it relates to the Columbia Public School District. I got a text from her yesterday, hey, can you lend me or hey, what's up? Yeah. And then says, hey, can you lend me some money? And I said, no. A couple hours later, I get a message from her. She says, oh, for the love of God. She says, please, no, that wasn't me. But that's how easy those things can get hacked. Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft, Worldwide Elder Abuse Awareness Day. 5 million Americans experience elder abuse. That's 1 in 10. Where do folks go if they're like, maybe I'm noticing that or potentially a victim? Where do they go? Where would you point them?
I would point them to sos.mo.gov, the Secretary of State's website. We have a group of individuals in our securities area that's specifically designed to try to make sure that the elderly are not taken advantage of, especially financially. And anytime anybody wants to call to check, what do you think about this? Does this seem on the up and up? I'm not sure about this. We would want to encourage them to reach out to our office, and we're happy to give them information, happy to check, happy to help them just kind of think before they make a decision and not really regret.
I'm going to add just a quick note, Mr. Secretary, here, that to tell you how this is very timely, and for people that may not think it's a big deal. 20 years ago, I covered Senator Jim Talent Ballpark 20 years ago. He was at a Jefferson City nursing home. They weren't talking about the Iraq War. They weren't talking about, not that they didn't care, abortion, guns, anything. They were talking about this very issue. A couple of years ago, I covered Attorney General Eric Schmidt at a different nursing home. This was the biggest thing that they talked about, what you're talking about today. So it is a major problem.
It is a major problem. We've worked with legislation, especially with financial advisors, to make sure that if they seem to think there's something wrong, there is a second person they can talk to, a trusted friend that elderly people have suggested, or so they can put a halt on a transaction just long enough to make sure that it's not being sent overseas to some scammer, to make sure that we protect these people. But we need all Missourians to help us with that. You know, the elderly are the ones that helped all of us get to where we are. Now we need to return that favor.
Jay, a question from outside the discussion on elder abuse, but something we wanted to ask you that we hadn't the last time you were in, when you and the lieutenant governor and the governor were all at a recent function, and the governor cautioned GOP lawmakers to get along and work together. At the time, it kind of reminded me of a few years ago when Mike Parson made some similar comments in a letter singling out, not by name, but obviously House Speaker Ron Vescovo. Who was the governor talking to this time around? Anyone in particular?
You know, I don't know that he was talking to anyone in particular. I think he was just hopeful that as Missourians we could work in a respectful way and with grace. Obviously, there are differences between people, but you know, it'd really be nice if we could restore honesty to campaigns, and people will laugh, but it'd be nice if we could actually trust what politicians are saying.
Amen.
I don't think he was calling out anyone individually. I think he was just yearning for maybe a little bit different culture and style of campaigning.
So there was an event a couple of weeks ago. You and Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe were there. Obviously, you're both running for governor. Governor Parson at this fundraiser with Rowden, he gets up and says a few words, and he did specifically say, hey, as Republicans, let's quit criticizing each other. You got tax hike Mike. You got Mike Kehoe talking about your last name. You don't think he was talking specifically about either one of you as it relates to the gubernatorial race?
I think if he was speaking directly to either one of us, he would have said so. You know, Governor Parson is not a shrinking violet. He's been a sheriff. He's been a legislator. He's been a governor. If he wanted to say something specifically to someone, he would have said that.
All right. We appreciate the work you're doing regarding highlighting and I got to make sure I get this right. And thanks, Jay, for correct. It's not Elder Abuse Day. It's Elder Abuse Awareness. Secretary of State, I appreciate your correction. That's how I'm like Joe Biden. Sometimes I get my words mixed up, man. Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft, anything else you would like to add before we let you go?
I would just remind people that if they have any concerns about someone trying to financially take advantage of an elderly individual, if they have any concerns about potential physical abuse, just to reach out. They can call our office. Some of those things may be under the Attorney General's office. We have people that are there to listen to those concerns, to help investigate them. We just want to protect all Missourians.
Thank you. Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft. Coming up, 8:25, Morning Bell. We'll look at stock futures, the inflation report coming out about an hour ago. Good morning. 8:25, time for the Morning Bell business news with a little twist only. Stephanie Bell can give you. Steph is back coming up on Monday. So let's look at futures first. Dow was up 190 yesterday. Right now, up over 100 points. And let's start here because we do have a couple of things in this morning's Morning Bell. Inflation numbers, here they are. Prices climbed 4% on an annual basis. So here's the deal, basically. Groceries and rents. This is the Consumer Price Index. You might hear it a lot called the CPI, Consumer Price Index. And basically, they take something that most of us pretty much all participate in. That is buying gas, groceries, rent, mortgage, what have you. It rose 0.1% in May from the previous month. So it's rising 4% on an annual basis. Now, it has cooled. Remember the peak of over 9%. It remains more than double the pre-pandemic average. So those are some of the facts as it relates to the numbers. But fortunately, it's not sucking as bad as it has been. Is that a positive?
Yay!
Does that work this morning, Marsh? I'm trying to put a positive spin on crap.
That's about as close as you're going to get, I think.
It's a turd sandwich.
Yeah, it doesn't suck as bad as it did. And I'll tell you, a personal struggle with this sometimes because, these are facts. And since the tragic events of January the 20th of 2021, that's where we've been. And these are facts, and it hurts. And you've seen it in your bank accounts. We've all seen it. But then sometimes I get hesitant to rail too much on this stuff because I want folks to know that our business community here in mid-Missouri, that our businesses are fine if we keep supporting the local businesses. I don't ever want to give anybody the idea, oh, man, our local businesses are hurting. I'd rather build up small local businesses here in mid-Missouri. So that's the challenge sometimes, and I don't know if I get it right. Probably not. Okay, today's Morning Bell, talking booze and a prescription drug medication. Ozempic. And I've heard this a lot in the news. Apparently it's for diabetes or something like that.
It's being used right now, though. It's the trendy weight loss drug. Right. So people who are diabetic are actually having a hard time getting it.
Yeah, because these people will realize, it helped me lose weight. And then people have come down on doctors like, you got to quit prescribing this for weight loss. It is for diabetes. And yes, it happens to help you lose weight. There have been shortages. Apparently it's incredibly expensive anyway. Celsius. There's I don't know, it's one of those girly drinks.
An energy drink company?
Yeah. But is it also booze? Don't they make like a booze-infused energy drink or an energy-infused booze drink?
Not that I'm familiar with, but that doesn't mean anything.
So apparently there's rumors that Celsius contains Ozempic. Celsius drink Ozempic. Been searched 12 million times on TikTok. People are saying, no, what you're seeing on TikTok, that is not true. The drug is not on the ingredient list, but apparently it does. According to the company, it can help people with weight loss. And I'll quote them here because this is classic. Because it used to get me until I was about 12 years old. I'd see the commercials on TV and they'd show the Cocoa Puffs. Cocoa Puffs, part of this balanced breakfast. And I go, look, Mom, it's a balanced breakfast. It took me until I was about 12 to realize, to pay attention to the wording. And the wording was, Cocoa Puffs is a part of this nutritious breakfast. The Cocoa Puffs, they ain't nutritious.
Does Celsius have taurine in it?
Bull semen.
Oh.
Celsius products provide functional energy that, when combined with proper diet and moderate exercise, clinically proven to increase the metabolism through thermogenesis. Coming up just a few minutes from now, celebrating a local dude wins an NBA championship. Still a lot of things before we get into the Gary Nolan Show here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Has America been fair to Donald Trump? The people always know what's going on. I don't think the president knows how everybody is living.
0 points, 2 points. Like, I don't care. We won a championship. Can't nobody tell me nothing.
Michael Porter Jr. after the Denver Nuggets. First time in franchise history they win an NBA championship. I care very little about basketball. Our old family member, Brad Trinago, who does play-by-play for the Mizzou women's basketball team, he got me into women's basketball, which actually for me is more entertaining to watch than dudes basketball.
Go figure.
No, it's because of it's the style of play. It's more.
It's a fast game.
It's a fast game. It's really serious. But
they play more team ball than the guys do a lot of times.
I would agree with that, actually. And I think it's more disciplined in a way.
Yeah.
I think guys, and of course I'm biased, I recognize that. I feel like guys basketball is a little more showboaty.
It's Toby Keith.
Street ball.
Me, I. So watch, and I can thank Brad Trinago for that. He continues to do work for Mizzou. But I thought it was cool what Michael Porter Jr. said there. He said, because he didn't have necessarily a good playoff system, but he came through when it counted, Marsh.
He did, and had second double-double of the series, 16 points, 13 boards, couple of assists, so yeah.
And he said, I know I didn't have a great series. He says, but the people I surrounded myself with, they knew what I could do, and they continued to build me up and continue to say, hey, man, you got this. And I think that applies. It's not just in the sports world, but I think it's in personal life, your professional life. And because I look at me personally and who I'm surrounded with and who you're surrounded with, Brian, and Hannah, who you're surrounded. You're surrounded by people that build you up, want you to do well.
That's right.
Marsh, but you see what I'm saying.
I do. I really do.
And that's important, I think.
It is. I mean, your point is very well taken, and there's just a couple of takeaways from that. I agree with everything you just said. I mean, perseverance is something that comes to mind. He had all sorts of Michael Porter Jr. back issues at the University of Missouri. I don't remember him playing very many games. I mean, very few.
He was out banged up for a long time.
For a long time.
He played like 3 minutes, I thought, in a first-round tournament game.
It was, and I think that was against Georgia, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But, yeah, just did not have a whole lot of luck with his health, but obviously he's put it together. I do remember him in Tolton, and what a great performance he did, and, of course, his brother Jonte as well. The one thing I'd point out for our fans, Josh Kroenke, he played at Rockbridge. He's the president of the team, and if you look at the Mizzou Hoops Twitter, it is a dumpster fire right now because they praised Josh Kroenke and called him basically team president, former Mizzou star. But people are really upset with Mizzou fans are that they would put that out. And I think that's what they got to remember. The people tweeting that at Mizzou. Remember one thing: Josh is not Stan. Stan is the one that moved the team to Los Angeles. That's on
the Rams.
Exactly. That's on him. And I met Josh many years ago. I used to actually broadcast his games. I'm starting to feel old, but he was at Rockbridge. He was one heck of a basketball player.
He was.
But I think some of the tweets I'm seeing directed at Josh are. I just don't understand them because they're mad, obviously, about the Rams team and they're mad at Stan, but don't take it out on his son.
Speaking of Mizzou hoops, did you see who they signed? Was it over the weekend? A 7'5" kid.
Wow.
Connor Vanover. I'm probably saying that wrong, but he's 7'5". He's a transfer, and Mizzou hoops has signed him. So that'll be interesting to watch.
Especially with Coach Gates and what he did last year. And Christian Braun also plays for the Denver Nuggets. I think he's like only the fourth or fifth basketball player to win an NCAA championship in 1 year, and then the very next year win an NBA championship. And I think he's got a little bit of local history here.
He does. He played at KU. He's from Blue Valley North, but his mother and father both graduated from the University of Missouri. And
wasn't his mother like a track star or something?
Track or basketball, I can't remember. And her last name wasn't Braun, as I recall. But yes, exactly right. But he is just, again, Josh Kroenke, in terms of who he's looking for in terms of players and stuff, pretty good roster. The only question, can they keep that group together?
Welcome to the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Branden Rathert, Brian Hausworth, producer Hannah, and, of course, John Marsh is here. By the way, this thing at the Arc the other day in Columbia, this event center, we now know a suspect and some of the other charges. I spoke with somebody yesterday, had dinner with a guy who's very involved in this kind of stuff and said some of the, because they're trying to find out what happened. I'm like, is it just basically two clashing gangs? And he's like, well, apparently is what happened. That's just what this guy told me. But he's in this stuff. He's in the know. But apparently some kid got his rear end kicked or something, and so then goes to the Arc and wants to take it, but calls his mom first, and mom shows up. Mom's going to settle the score. Allegedly, mom shows up with a gun to revenge her kid getting his ass kicked by some other kids. That's how they handle these things. Goodness.
I've heard the same thing, but again, that's not confirmed. But yes, it's certainly the talk.
Yeah, last night, Marsh, you caught a little bit of Gavin Newsom, Sean Hannity. I did hear Sean Hannity talking about it. Sean Hannity's here every day at 2 o'clock. Did hear him talking about this a little bit on his show yesterday. We'll wonder how he covers it today. But Gavin Newsom, kind of governor of California, potentially Democratic presidential candidate. You said he even complimented Trump at one point, kind of.
Yeah, he was on there talking about Trump during the pandemic and about how he didn't have any. He pleasantly surprised that the president didn't go after California with any big deal restrictions or anything, and Newsom was quite complimentary in that regard.
And then he was asked about Joe Biden. So he's complimentary to Trump, and then the Democrat Gavin Newsom is asked about, what do you think about Joe Biden's capability of running the country?
I don't think he's capable.
He said, I don't think he's capable. That's what Gavin Newsom said.
Houseworth's going to be mad at you.
I know.
Yeah, is there some context? Okay.
You nailed it.
I don't think he's capable. I know he's capable. I see.
Okay, gotcha.
But still, I like my spin on it.
I don't think he's capable.
But here's what's remarkable, and I don't know what Biden is saying here. You know who's good at this stuff?
Neither does Biden.
Yeah. You know who's really good at interpreting this stuff? The star of the Gary Nolan show. Brian Hansen. Maybe we get him here in the next few minutes, interpret what some of these things that Biden says. But so Sean Hannity plays this clip last night to Gavin Newsom, then asked Gavin Newsom, do you think Biden's a good president?
And the cheer we cheer for Muslim athletes like Kareem Al-Jabbar. So I'm trying to think, where was the last place I was? It's hard to keep track. Yeah, you're right, Ireland. EIGH%. They shot him. God bless you all. Let's go lick the world.
So context again, Sean Hannity plays all this video for you. Okay, you've seen it. Do you think he's a good president? Gavin Newsom. Yeah, he's pretty good. I don't know what the hell he's in. And Joe Biden says someone that I can't understand half the things he says. You know who's really good at this stuff, though? The star of the Gary Nolan show, Brian Hansen.
Woo-hoo!
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me in here.
Hansen.
He does a mean Shania Twain, too.
I do, yes.
Let's hear it.
Well, not today.
Can you help? So I know you're really good at this because you hear good and you can figure out some of this stuff. Biden says stuff, and I seriously do not understand what the heck he is saying.
I can help you with that. I've been taking advanced level Bidenese.
Because I've got some stuff here. If you have a minute, like this, and we play it sometimes, and I just gloss over it. And Hannah sees me with this blank look on my face because I don't know what the hell Joe is saying.
That's just your face, though.
This.
Rock and I think it's a right for people to have bad health care.
Okay, what is he?
What's wrong with that?
People have bad health care.
What the hell is bad health care?
I don't know what it is. I just didn't know how to pronounce it. Badakefcare. Haven't you ever?
Badakefcare.
See? Badakefcare.
Badakefcare.
What is he saying?
What does it matter? Better health care is what he's saying.
Better health care.
Oh, is that what it is?
Okay. How about this one?
Donald Trump does pose an excellent threat to this. It's not hypothetical.
Whatever I said, it's not hypothetical. Let me play this again.
Pose an extra strength to this. Pose an extra strength to this.
An extra strength.
What's a next Nell strength?
That was an extra fence.
I think I would spell that NXNELSRENT.
Pose an extra strength to this.
Any idea? I don't know, man.
I'm at a loss.
He wants better health care.
Trump bad.
See, Marsh has got it down. He speaks Bidenese very well.
Pretty good.
I've listened to you work with Gary on the pronunciation side.
How about this one?
I'll lead an effective strategy to mobilize true international effort to pressure. I'll lead an
I don't know what he's...
true international effort to pressure.
True enter dash double the pressure.
True international effort to
Now
pressure.
speed it up. True enter dash double the pressure. You see, go ahead, Marsh, try that.
I think it was an old lyric from an old Queen song, wasn't it, Brian?
True international effort to pressure.
True enter dash double the pressure.
Dun, 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 dun.
What's happening?
We're trying to figure out what Joe Biden...
Got the Three Stooges up in here.
Going to work today, and when you see your boss go...
True international effort to pressure.
How you doing this morning? True under dash double the pressure.
Boy, you got it down.
See what kind of reaction...
The way all three of you said it perfectly in sync scares me a little bit.
It's kind of scary, isn't it?
True under dash double the pressure.
Starting a new boy band.
Did you bring the other clip? My butt's been wiped. That's a good one. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
My butt's been wiped.
So he's obviously in front of a helicopter here.
I forgot about that one.
But I'm not...
My butt's been wiped.
My
butt's been wiped.
My butt's been wiped?
That's it.
Is that what he's...
My butt's been wiped.
Shush up.
He's just shouting out to nobody in particular.
My butt's been wiped.
Is that a before or after he laid the Easter eggs?
Hopefully before.
He's walking to the helicopter and just shout, my butt's been wiped.
My butt's been wiped.
Oh, gosh. All right.
Why is he saying it with that cadence? I know.
Again, he like blurted it out. He just, my butt's been wiped.
Also, the way he's saying it insinuates that he was not the one who did it.
Well, he's the president. Come on.
That's a visual I didn't want.
Okay,
oh, those poor Secret Service guys.
All right, we got it all. Brian Hansen, star of the Gary Nolan Show. Thank you, man. Coming up, we're just minutes away from Nolan.
How do we come back from that?
Leftovers, maybe? We'll see what we got in there.
leftovers. Enjoy.
All right, leftovers. We're continuing where we left off. We had Brian Hansen.
Against our better judgment.
Star of the Gary Nolan show, Brian Hansen, trying to interpret some of the things that Joe Biden has been saying. And I didn't realize this happened, but apparently this did happen like 5 minutes ago.
I think it was an old lyric from an old Queen song, wasn't it, Brian?
True international under pressure.
True international under pressure.
We all three did say that at the same time.
It was a little scary. I feel like I'm in an episode of The Three Stooges.
True international under pressure.
By the way, one of the other ones is we were trying to translate what Joe Biden is saying. I swear to God, it sounds like he's just walking by the helicopter, just shouts out to nobody, "My butt's been wiped."
My butt's been wiped.
There's an echo in the studio.
Do you know that people like PolitiFact and Reuters and Snopes and The Independent did a fact check?
Oh, I'm not surprised.
Because people like Brian Hansen and John Marsh get on the radio and joke that Joe Biden, I think he's saying my butt's been wiped.
I think you were included in that conversation.
So these news outlets, well, we got to fact check that. Like, they have no sense of humor. Joe Biden, he really didn't say that. Here's what he was trying to, and I don't know that any of these fact checks ever did really determine what it was that he was trying to say.
Because that's my question. If that's not what he said, what did he actually say?
So Reuters is what they're saying so here, a video of U.S. President Joe responding to reporters gone viral on social media with some users claiming he said, "My butt's been wiped."
Butt's been wiped.
A slowed down version of the footage. So these journalists, okay?
They slowed it down.
They slowed it down, which I did not think to do. Let me do that here real quick. I'll slow this thing down to 3 seconds. How does that sound?
My butt's been wiped.
It sounds even more so like he said my butt's been wiped.
Or waxed. I heard waxed that time.
My butt's been wiped.
My butt's been waxed. So these news organizations, okay, they went through, they fact-checked it. They went to the effort, John, of slowing the audio down. All these people gathered in a room trying to figure out what it is that he said. So they've clarified what they think he said here, okay, when talking about this in this clip.
My butt's been wiped.
They're saying he said that he said, "What must be what?"
Because that makes so much more sense. What?
And that's, again, here's proof. These news outlets are just as idiotic as a lot of these progressive Democrats. Wow. And thank you for your nice text. Lori says, driving to work, cracking up. Biden stuff is killing me. I swear I have tears.
Yeah, hang on just a second. We've got several text messages. I'm having a hard time weeding through them.
You guys are cracking me up. I was laughing so hard I was crying. Have a great day. Thank you, Teresa. You have a great day.
And then we've got Lisa saying, y'all have me hooting like a crazy girl in my office all by myself.
Well, Lisa, if the FedEx man comes in and he wants to give you a package, you take that package and you sign for it. And he says, "What are you laughing for here all by yourself?" Well, I was listening to Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and 104.5 News Radio 950 KWOS. And they were doing this thing. See, they were taking clips of Joe trying to, and she probably won't be able to explain it. The best way to explain it would be this. Just tune in to Wake Up Mid-Missouri weekday mornings. Give it a shot for a couple weeks. If you don't like the show,
True international under pressure.
we'll give you your money back after a couple weeks. All right? Sound good? Cool.
Fair's fair.
All right. Have a great day. You're in for a real treat because Gary Nolan is next, and guess what? His butt's been wiped apparently.
Oh.
Nolan's next. See ya.